Welcome back to 13 News at 4 as we continue to break down final election results. Just moments ago, we heard Vice President Kamala Harris's concession speech. So I want to bring in University of Michigan Associate Professor Dr. Melissa Borja, Republican strategist Robert Bain, and City County Councilor Nick Roberts, a Democrat from Indianapolis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm curious to know, and I'll just open it up to you, Melissa, first. Kamala Harris underperformed in a number of the swing states that she needed to win last night. What do you think happened?
I think voters are very angry. I think Democrats have a lot to learn right now. One thing I think we need to think about is this election is not just Donald Trump winning, but Democrats losing. She got 15 million fewer votes than Joe Biden did. Democrats have a lot of things to learn from this. I will also point out, though, I don't take for granted that she conceded the race and there is a commitment to a peaceful transition. So we should not take that for granted.
Nick, do you think that Vice President Harris focused too much on social issues and not enough maybe on so-called kitchen table issues, the economy, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough question, right? Because, we've seen a lot of attacks on our democracy, attacks on women's rights. Those are paramount issues to every Democrat right now. But I mean, at the end of the day, the economic issues win out, right? And I think that's the case in Indiana. It's the case nationwide. People are focused on inflation. They're focused on, again, education, things that really affect their family. It's difficult to say. I think we'll know more as we kind of see the results, what people really say. But obviously, if we could have done it again, we would have shaken up the strategy. But I understand why they took the strategy they did. But it looks like I think the inflation issues was the top on voters' minds for this election.
Robert, what did Republicans do right?
We went from the drive-through to D.C. I mean, it's perfect. You think about some of the things that Donald Trump did, and it seemed kind of silly, right? They got criticized as stunts. All campaigns do stunts. But in a weird way, it made him seem more relatable. Now, I don't know how, someone from Irvington can be related, to a billionaire or feel that. But Donald Trump has never lost his common touch. That comes from being on TV. It comes from being a salesman. It's simply remarkable that he is the president of the United States and that it is a Republican landslide everywhere in Indiana, in all three branches of government, or excuse me, all three levels. It's just a terrific night to be a Republican, and I'm shocked.
Let's now transition to the state of Indiana election results here. We saw the same result right in the race for president. In fact, Donald Trump had a wider margin of victory in the race for president last night than he had 4 years ago with Joe Biden. And in the race for governor, I think we have the results. I want to put those on the screen in the race for governor. Okay, so Mike Braun easily outperformed Democratic challenger Jennifer McCormick. We saw the Democratic Governors Association, this national group, pump in more than $600,000 into the McCormick campaign, which gave us an indication that they saw this as winnable. Some pollsters had moved Indiana from solid Republican to likely Republican, and yet the race for governor was one of the earliest races called last night. We have not had a Democrat governor in Indiana in more than 20 years. Nick, as a young Democrat, kind of a next generation Democratic leader in the party in Indiana, what do you think Democrats need to do to gain traction here?
So I think there's a number of factors. And first and foremost, that we knew there was a tough race going in. Statewide Indiana, it's difficult. But I think we have 2 years to rebuild as a party, right? We have 2 years until the next election, the midterm. I think about where we were 8 years ago. After 2016, we were demoralized just like we are right now. We are divided, disappointed dramatically. And we have to find a way to get on our feet and get motivated. That was when I got involved politically. It was a week after the 2016 election. I emailed the Marion County Democratic Party. I got internship, worked my way up, got involved in the party, then ran for city council 7 years later and won. And I think it takes a lot of people like that can get involved over these next 4 years to get engaged in the process. Obviously, not just to vote, but to volunteer, be involved with different campaigns. And really, I think as the campaign, we have to focus on grassroots. We'd focus on kitchen table issues like we said. We'd focus on relating to the average people. And in Indiana, we're a rural state. We have to find a way to finally turn around that tide in rural Indiana, because we are gaining in the suburbs. Last night we gained in mostly all the donut counties around Indianapolis. But we have to finally take the tide to rural Indiana and also get turnout in Indianapolis to win it in statewide.
And Robert, what do Republicans here have to do to keep this supermajority and solid red state solid red?
Provide the same strong leadership we've been providing. Eric Holcomb, Todd Houston, the list goes on and on. Rod Bray, the Senate Majority Leader. Deliver on issues. Give the people what they want. Be someone who listens, who travels, who goes to someplace, Clinton, Indiana, name it, and says, what's the problem? What are you looking for? Why do you want to stay in this state? What do you mean you want to go to college someplace else? And since Mitch Daniels and Jim Kittle revolutionized this state's politics 20 plus years ago, that's how we've won.
Melissa, as the independent political scientist here, what do you make?
Well, I think the story of this election in Indiana is not just what happens with the governor's race, but what happens in the state house. And so there's at least one race that hasn't been called House District 62. I know Indiana Democrats really hope to break the supermajority. That clearly didn't happen this time around, but I think they're chipping away. So I would keep an eye on the results of that race as they come in, and it might be an indication of some hope that Democrats could have, but we'll see.
Okay, all right. And finally, I learned that we are in very intelligent company tonight. We knew that already, but we have two Brain Game alumni here. Nick, the last time you were here, you were on the Brain Game panel, and Robert, you too, just a few years before.
October 16th, 1982. But the PhD is.
That may take the cake. I think you would have done pretty well. Thank you all for being here. We'll be right back.